Good afternoon, and welcome back to What Matters Gulf Coast. We have a very special session for you today. We had the Mobile Democratic delegation who actually conducted a town hall meeting at Gilliard Elementary School on Dolphin Island Parkway. We are going to show you part one of that meeting. It was on the redistricting, which is a topic that still has not been settled. It should be headed back to the federal courts, but you will hear all about that from our representatives, our Mobile delegation. So if we would sit back and pay close attention, this is a very important issue that we all need to be attuned to. So let's sit back, relax, and let's hear the first part of this discussion with our Mobile County Democratic delegation. Thank you.
Saddest things that I have heard, a bill that has been introduced that would have had that impact in the state legislature. And so I'm happy to say that there were a number of people from Mobile, the League of Women Voters, NAACP. Other folk actually came to Mobile and packed meeting rooms in both the House and the Senate to oppose that legislation, and it did not pass this time around. Without a doubt, it will be introduced again next year, so we have to continue that fight. I introduced a bill that did not see the light of day that would have allowed an elderly or disabled person to designate someone to assist them with their absentee ballots, that their absentee application and also their absentee ballot. Again, the bill did not see the light of day because the Republicans did not want that to happen. I will introduce that bill again and continue to fight for it in hopes that we can get it passed.
Some of the other things that I think is real pertinent that Democrats have championed, and it did pass, and that was taking the sales tax off of those foods that are under the SNAP program. We're taking baby steps, but it means that some of those products like eggs and milk and cheese and some of those other programs, you will no longer have to pay sales taxes on that food. We look at it that it's a baby step because we've been wanting sales tax off of all foods, but if we can see how this will affect our education trust fund budget, we're going to propose keep taking it off of all foods. So that's one that you will enjoy coming up very soon.
We're talking about the state portion.
The state portion, not the county or the city.
And in the first year, it's 1 cent. Right?
1 cent. So that's one bill that was actually it was passed and it will go into effect. Another one that I think that I am excited about, and our leader Anthony Daniels, was the one who sponsored this bill, and it is the overtime tax bill, which we think that it's going to be great not only for employers, but also for employees. And we think that it is going to create more workers into the workforce, that they will not have to be taxed on those overtime dollars that they will have to make. Those are two bills. Now, one other bill that I actually sponsored, and I like it because we're sitting in a school and I am on the Education Trust Fund budget, is a raise for all of our teachers and support staff. It was a 2% raise. We hope that it will be more on next time around. We had about $2.7 billion in surplus, and I am pleased because those of us on the dais know it at one time that they were not going to give Mobile any money for the airport or give us any money for the port. We were able to get about $15 million for the airport, and I think about 25 for the port. So those are some of the initiatives that we have come across that is going to be very beneficial for you all, and that's why we wanted to share them with you. And of course, we'll take questions at the end if you have any.
Thank you.
And if you have a sheet here, you will see this sheet will outline some of those. As Representative Clark said, there were so many bills, but these are, I think you should have a sheet that will outline some of those. And if you have additional information that you need, we'll be more than happy to provide it.
Thank you. One of the bills that Representative Drummond mentioned that I felt like was really, really important was Leader Daniels' bill to remove the income tax off of overtime. And the reason why that was so important to me was because there's no other state doing it. And when you think about the workforce needs that we have in this country right now, we just can't find workers. And this provides us an opportunity to invest more in the current workforce that we have that don't need to be trained, and it gives them an incentive to be able to bring more money home. I look at it as we've been passing legislation that has been giving raises in every household. Removing the sales tax off groceries, give raises in every household. By providing this overtime tax, not having to pay this 5% tax on overtime, is giving a raise to our hourly workforce, people that are really the backbone of our community. A lot of people celebrated when this happened. Manufacturers celebrated, hospitals celebrated because the nurses, the CNAs, these are hourly workers. A lot of small business people celebrated, like people were excited, the nursing home workers, they were really excited about this opportunity, and I think that was a big deal for us. One of the things, the gentleman from Washington County asked if we can stand firm on this. And I just want to give you an idea about something that we have stood firm on. For as long as I can remember, in the Mobile delegation, we have shared co-chairmanship between Republicans and Democrats, between black and white, right? It's 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats, 5 whites, 4 blacks. It's almost 50-50 within our delegation. But for some reason, after the last election cycle in November, they decided that they didn't want to continue to share chairmanships, and they wanted to just pretty much take over the delegation. We didn't feel that that was right. As long as we can remember when the Democrats was in control, the Republicans had an opportunity to be at the table. Since all of us have been serving, it was the same, it was done the same way, but all of a sudden things changed. So we contested all local bills because we believe that we deserve to have a right and have a voice and have a seat at the table, and people don't have the right to run over us and just tell us what they are going to do and not going to do. We believe that we are going to be a part of the process. And sometimes you have to stand firm as a unit to make people understand that you will tolerate us and we will be a part of the process. So we stood firm and we contested local bills to make sure that they understand that we are serious about having a seat at the table and being a part of the process. So that's just a small example of, yes, sir, we will stand together and stand firm on what we believe in and what's right for our community. Yes, sir, we will do.
Thank you, sir.
There are a number of bills that, as was mentioned earlier, that was passed that we thought were great bills to help the people throughout the state and also in Mobile County. There were some bills that we were responsible for not letting pass. One of them was that there was an attempt to get rid of the merit system, the civil service system. The merit system came into being because of the spoil system, which meant that since somebody became mayor, if you didn't like the people who were there, you get rid of all of them and hire some new people, no matter how long they've been there. We fought that because we thought it was not in the best interest of the employees to have that happen. Someone who's been there 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden you bring somebody in and kick him out just because he was there before you got there. That's just not right. And we fought that for not just one time. Representative Edline Clark and I was on the committee. We fought it 3 times. Had it not been for this delegation, it would be the law now. And I'm sure it'll be back. There were other bills that we had to fight. One of them was critical race theory. Everything that you see being introduced in Florida, that you see on the news every day, is also being introduced in Alabama. And what we've had to try to do, we've had to try to keep some of that from happening because it's counterproductive to everybody in the state, we believe. When you can't teach history as history, and you have to teach it as the governor thinks you ought to teach it, then we're not educating, we're indoctrinating. So that was something else that we really fought hard for. We still have voter suppression bills that make it extremely difficult for people to vote throughout this state. And I can tell you, we all know that when we go back in session, that's going to be on the top of the agenda. How you handle absentee ballots, the availability of polling places, who can assist you, transportation to the polls. They even got a bill that was introduced that said it's against the law for somebody to give you a bottle of water if you're standing in line. Those they are voter suppression bills. So we have to come together as a caucus and fight those bills. Because if we don't, this state will be completely back in the dog ages. So I don't want you to think that a lot of our job is just passing things. A whole lot of our job is playing defense. And we do that every day. We play defense every day. And you know, it's just, most of those things that come up, they're just not rational. They make no sense. They're just a national party agenda that's being pushed through states. And it actually makes no sense. Why would we want to suppress people's right to vote? We passed the Voting Rights Act in 1965, now we pass the thing to make it not work. Those are some of the issues that we have to deal with every day. We won't be dealing with them in the special session because they can't be brought up in the special session. But when the general session starts, that will be the topic of the agenda both in the Senate and the House. So when you see these things, when you see these arguments about them, those are some of the things that take place. Probably most of you didn't know that there was an effort to get rid of the entire Mobile County Personnel Board by law.
And Mr. Jones, would you add that we had a very diverse group of individuals come to Montgomery?
We had
against that.
We had police officers, firemen, public works workers. We had a cross section of all city employees.
White, black, young, old.
They were from all over. And the reason for it is they were people who've been there 10 years. You change the system, when the system doesn't exist anymore, their seniority don't count. So those are some of the issues that's been coming before us this session. And I think that we need to be mindful, and as a community, we need to really pay attention to some of those issues you hear about. I know you hear about what's happening in Florida, and you say, well, that's a shame, but it's introduced in Alabama too. It was introduced right here. They just didn't get it back. And if we're going to argue why we ought to have a cross-section of representation, because the same thing happens in Congress. So it's vitally important that we have to work together. We can't get anything done if we don't work together, if we don't stick together. There are 105 people in the legislature. In the House. In the House where we sit, there are 105, 35 in the Senate. Of 105, there are 28 Democrats. And I think what 8 Democratic senators out of 35. There are 28 state representatives out of 105. So So that gives you some idea of what the fight is like. This is the same thing that when we talk about this redistricting, same numbers apply. Same numbers apply. When we go back Monday, in most of the votes, as Representative Brayford mentioned, as most of the votes come, it's 78 to 8, something like that, or 28. That's what the vote is. And that's what, so don't be surprised when you see Monday, when it passes and go back to the court. I know it's going to be 28 votes against it. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be 77 or 78 votes for it. And I think that Representative Clark brought up in the committee that that's what happened. Well, Representative Figurs brought up that when we tried to get co-chairs, that's just why the vote went, the way the committee was established. It shouldn't be that way. We all ought to have the same interest in advancing the state, in helping the people in our state, providing opportunities for everybody equally across the board. That's what it should be. But it's not. It's just not like that. In fact, I think we all know that's been our goal for a long time, but in the real world, that's not the way it operates. And yes, sir.
Our representative in Washington County, Mr. Easterbrook.
Yes, sir. Knowing well.
And I want to commend you all for being aware of the saying, same old ball game under a new name.
That used to be a Democratic seat. You were aware of that. That was Elaine Beach.
Ma'am?
That was a Democratic seat.
Elaine Beach used to represent.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Good
Mr.
lady.
Easterbrook, and showing you about the demographics, it changed, and a Republican was elected from that district.
Right.
But we were told that if you look at the data from that district, minorities didn't vote.
I think you all have said pretty much everything, so I tried to find some things that would relate to you all as citizens. One of the bills that I sponsored and died in committee actually was trying to separate the holiday birthdays of Martin Luther King and General Lee. And this is my third year, I think, introducing that bill. Of course, the legislature, I learned, changed once Dr. King's birthday became a national holiday. They changed General Lee's birthday to that January date. And for two men who are believe so differently in terms of justice, we felt that they should have their two separate days, so whoever followed them and wanted to honor them would have their own day. So we definitely don't want General Lee on Martin Luther King's birthday. But that died in committee, which I was not surprised. Although the first time I introduced that bill, I had 28 sponsors. Now, mind you, only 6 Democrats were there that day. But after that, they all got scorned, and then they decided to stay away from it after that point. But I also sponsored a bill, the vaping bill, which did not get passed in the House. Representative Drummond also passed a vaping bill. Her bill was about enforcement, and my bill was about identifying those children so that we could get them the help as early as possible that they needed. And the bill that I did, that did pass, one of my bills that did pass, is called the Child Physical and Sexual Abuse Victim Protection Act. And that bill provides that the purposes of that act is to provide certain conditions for the admissibility of out-of-court statements made by victims of certain crimes under 12 years of age, or a protected person, to include statements made by witnesses of those crimes who are under 12 years of age or protected persons. I also had the pleasure of handling the bill for Representative Rolanda Hollis, who prohibited smoking in a vehicle where children are. As you may recall, back in 2003, I believe it was, I passed the Clean Indoor Air Bill, but did not compromise on municipalities being able to pass stronger ordinances so that we would have smoke-free public places and we could have a healthier population. So because of that, and when I went to the legislature, there was smoking even in the hallways. And I remember having a can of Lysol spray spraying my way to the chamber, which I ended up having an asthma attack. You know, sir, if you're bored, you can leave anytime you like. But
I'm enjoying it, trust me.
your facial expressions don't tell me that. But at any event, that it needed to be done. I actually ended up contracting asthma after being in that state house, and after that we were able to get that rule, get smoking out of the state house. Also, that passed this session was, you remember during COVID when relatives could not go and see their relatives if they had COVID in the hospital, you were banned from going in there. So there is a bill now that provides that each patient of a healthcare facility has the right to be visited during the facility's visiting hours, and it requires each healthcare facility to establish the visitation policy. It prohibits a healthcare facility from requiring visitors to show proof of vaccination. It allows each patient to designate one essential caregiver each day who is entitled to 2 hours of daily in-person visitation. It provides a procedure for an individual to designate an essential caregiver on behalf of a patient who is incapacitated and so forth. Also, one of the bills that we fought is the so-called school choice bill. And all those bills do is take money from the Education Trust Fund, meaning public schools. There's also a bill that was passed that if you are a juror for the state, you're paid $10 per day. Now you will get mileage reimbursement of 5 cents per mile travel. Also, a bill that was passed that will be important for you to know is a bill dealing with distracted driving. It prohibits certain distracted driving, including swerving, crossing traffic lanes without a signal, or otherwise operating a vehicle in an impaired manner while also physically holding, supporting, or using a wireless telecommunications device, except to use voice-based or hands-free communications, to use a navigational system, to use a device mounted to the vehicle and operational with one motion in case of an emergency or when the vehicle is parked. So be aware that now you're not supposed to be on your cell phones, holding your cell phones, talking while driving. And we also passed a bill that requires financial literacy to be taught to our children when they enter the 9th grade. And that's it.
When did that bill come in effect for holding the phone?
I would have to check to be sure, but most of the time they don't go into effect until 3 months after the governor signs it. Sometimes it's longer if they need to affect changes to get everybody ready. One thing that I wish the state did was to make sure that the citizens are aware of these type bills that are passed that deals with driving. Just like you have to turn on your windshield, you have to turn on your lights when it's raining. Even to this day, not everybody knows that. So I think we need to do a better job in educating the public on these bills that are passed that really do affect your daily lives.
I think that in the first year you get a warning instead of a ticket, but then starting year 2, you actually get fined.
He wanted to know when it went into effect, when they were going to start stopping you and giving you the
I
tickets.
understand, but I.
Well, the news not long ago said that on 1 July, the bill was passed to do that, but that the law enforcement folks were not going to stop you unless there was another infraction. And then they would stop you. And then they would ticket you maybe for holding or talking or putting it on your shoulder. So it's not a bad bill if we could get somebody to enforce it.
Well, I don't remember if I voted for that bill or not, but it really got through because of who introduced it. Let me just say that. Go ahead.
Before, were you okay with her answer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Mr. Lacy?
Yeah, I just want to just make a quick statement real quick. As a former public school employee, as a former AEA member, you know, I worked as a custodian at Fire for 20 years. I just want to commend y'all for everything that y'all did in the last session of the Alabama legislature and everything that y'all did throughout the years to help public school employees and stand up for the interests of public school employees like y'all done. I, as a former public school employee, as a former AEA member, really appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Okay, this is, and I'm going to give the mic to Representative Briggs in just one moment. I see Miss Lucy back there. We want to thank her for allowing us to have this town hall at Gilliard. And I'm going to just take one quick liberty because there were two things that were very close to my heart that did not. One didn't make it to be introduced, but there was a whole lot of cry for it, so you can bet I'm going to file it again. And that was prohibiting guns in public schools and holding parents accountable if they made it onto the schoolyard. It does not violate anybody's rights. It simply says that it's a safety bill. When I introduced the bill, had no idea that we had somebody in Alabama who actually died, and I had a whole family call me from Birmingham, and their daughter was killed on a school campus by a young man who just brought his father's gun to school. He didn't know how to use it. He not only shot and killed her, but he also shot himself. That bill will be introduced again. It's a safety bill. And the other one that is very close to my heart, as Senator Figures outlined, is vaping among young people. The bill made it through all 105. It was voted unanimously out of the House. It's stalled in the Senate. We are working very hard. We're going to get it again because if you drive around just Mobile, everywhere you go, young people have access to vaping products. We've had them that have died, and we've had them that will get sick. So we will introduce that bill again. It would create about $1.2 million for the ABC board to be able to go and enforce, as the young man said. We can pass all of these laws, but if we don't have anybody to enforce it. So that bill will be introduced again. Thank you.
Thank you. And for my closing, real quick, I just want to give you more access to us. For those that may want our local office phone number, it is 251-208-5480, and you can reach all of us. You can reach any of us at that number. It's 251-208-5480. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I know some of you may not live in our districts, but we don't want you to feel as if you don't have anybody to call if you need assistance. You can still call us. It's okay. You know, if you don't live in our districts, that's fine. We're state representatives and chiefs of state senate. Like, we're here to help. So feel free to reach out to us if you need our assistance. I know sometimes the people in Washington County may not feel that they have representation. You know, and you can reach out to us. That number again is 251-208-5480. My office manager name is Pam Batiste, and she will be able to assist you, or she can get you directly in contact with one of us. And I just want to make sure that before we left today, that you will be able to have full access to us beyond this meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was Representative Drummond and Representative Jones were just referencing, if you would like to watch the proceedings in the legislature, there is a website where you can live stream those proceedings. It is Allison, spelled ALISO.legislature.al.us/live stream, and live stream has a hyphen, so it's live-stream.
Again?
Yes, Allison.legislature.state.al.us/live stream, and live stream has a hyphen.
I often hear people that say, well, we don't know what y'all doing. You can live stream any committee meeting. You can live stream the Senate chamber. You can live stream the House chamber whenever they're in session. You can actually watch the session right there online. You can watch everything that takes place. It's vocal. You hear what everybody's saying and everything. We meet at 10 o'clock for our committee meeting in room 200. If you use that, room 200, we'll have the committee meeting on there, and then at 1 o'clock, we both meet in the House and the Senate chamber. Is it 1 or 2 o'clock? 2 o'clock on Monday. 2 o'clock on Monday. The House meets and the Senate meets. You can go between the two if you want to watch both of them. So I just wanted you to have access to that. You can share it with anyone you want. Because I know it's a long way to just drive to Montgomery to listen. So you can actually listen sitting right at home and watch what's taking place.
Okay.
If there aren't any other questions, we're going to yes, sir.
Yeah, I have one. Earlier in the conversation, both Representatives Drummond and Clark raised the issue by way of the terminology apathy, being apathetic towards the voting, and how can getting out the vote. Is there a plan of action for that? Have you come up with a plan of action? And if you have or have not, how can citizens get involved in that initiative?
Sir, let me just say this. There's a plan of action that has been continuously in work by these members on this dais. And I'll give you one of those examples. We did not have any opposition, but no one beat the floor as much as we have. Let's start from the time of the census. We actually spent our own monies and hosted events to get people during COVID to fill out their census report in conjunction with Mobile County Commissioner Masiria Lutgood. We hosted food drives to get people to fill out the census. We have worked with the League of Women Voters. We've worked with Stand Up Mobile, with a number of organizations. And we have actually started, and you will see this, we've started an event that we call Taste of Mobile, and it's all about politics, to expose folks to those who are running for office and the reasons that they're running for office. And every minority individual that represents your area from the city, the county, as well as the state, we all participated in that event. Those are new things that we're doing to draw people into the voting process. So when you say, is there a master plan? I don't think there's a master plan, but we now are working outside of our districts. We're working outside of our election periods. We're not in an election right now, and we're working right now to register people, to get those that are incarcerated to know their rights, with all of the sororities and the fraternities to know their rights so that they will know that they can vote, and to get them all engaged in the voting process. But we need your help, each of you individually. We need your help. I can only speak for me, I did not like sitting in some of the meetings I was in, and when they started talking about voting in the city of Mobile or Mobile County, and they started saying that those that are in rural Alabama are outvoting us, percentage-wise. We're going to change that, but we need your help. It's not just those that are elected sitting up here, because we're in Montgomery probably 80 or 90% of our time. But I can tell you that 10% of our time is spent on trying to get people to register to vote.
I think that's an excellent question. The most effective way is to actually do that at the community level, organizations, fraternities, groups, social clubs, they all got together, even in churches. If we just work together to make sure that everyone in those organizations, everyone in those communities are registered to vote, and then that organization decides that they're going to get in touch with people and see if they voted and if they need a way to the poll, this is the absolute most effective way to get it done. To talk to your own neighbors, talk to the people you are around, talk to the groups that you're a part of, community groups and organizations, and especially churches. I was told about a church in Detroit that votes 97% in every election. 97%, because they took that on as a project in their community. And what they actually do is they have volunteers in the church that actually poll every member, see what their needs are, make sure they get to the polls, and then they make a report after the election. They don't necessarily tell them who to vote for. Their goal is to get them to the polls to vote. And that's important in all neighborhoods, all communities, in all areas that we function in within our community. So that's the absolute best way to do it. We can come out and help with that. We can come out when we're in Mobile and talk to groups. But I really think that is more effective when the community itself decides to put together its own program, or the church itself, or the sorority, or any community group who meets regularly. That's a good thing to do, is really check the voter registration and try to make it more.
And we will close with this. Let me just tell you one other project that we're doing from the House Democratic Caucus. Under the leadership of our minority leader, Anthony Daniels, our caucus is getting ready to start, and we're working on formulating it now with sororities and fraternities, not so much with those that are older. We're looking for all of the Culturama, the Deltees, the Kappa leaders. We're going to start exposing those young people not only to the voting process, but also how government works. So that will be a statewide project that we're going to do in concert with our caucus. The gentleman asked. Yes, ma'am.
I need to add something to what you're talking about. People that are disabled, people that are in wheelchairs, they don't have, I happen to have a way, because I have somebody that lives with me that bought a van where I could get into it and I get in my wheelchair. I have a way to get to the most people that are in wheelchairs or have disabilities walking or whatever, they can't get to the and giving the absentee ballot is almost impossible in this state.
And that's why we've had so many organizations like the League of Women Voters assisting. And if you know someone who needs help, in our districts, we get out and actually make sure that people are aware that they have the opportunity to vote absentee. We will take applications to senior housing complexes so that in the rental office there's an opportunity to pick up an application for an absentee ballot, and we will even say if you need assistance, we can put you in touch with one of those good Samaritans that I talked about earlier. The League of Women Voters, NAACP, they spend a lot of time out in the field assisting disabled and elderly voters. And that's why we don't want to see House Bill 209 pass. We want these Good Samaritans to continue having the opportunity to assist those who need help with absentee voting. And I just want to say for the gentleman back there, I did check, and the distracted voting bill did go into effect immediately when the governor signed it. And then also, this gentleman was correct. The use of a device cannot be the primary reason for you being stopped. It could be a secondary charge, but it does say violators of the law can be fined starting at $50 for the first offense and receive points on their driver's licenses. The bill has a 1-year grace period from the day it is signed, where violators will receive a written.
We want to thank you for joining us. We will have part 2 next Sunday. And as I said before, this is a very important topic. We have got to make, and when I say we, I mean the public, we have got to make sure that this happens and that we do pick up that additional district, which should be a minority district. That's one of the things that the Republicans in the state house are fighting. So we've got to stay on top of this because we may have to make some telephone calls, some emails, and maybe even some visits up there. But as I said earlier, part 2 will be next Sunday. So please join us again for What Matters Gulf Coast next Sunday, 4 o'clock, and we will hear the concluding session, the concluding section of this video. Thank you very much and have a wonderful and blessed day.